Anyways, Ian, thank you so much for joining us here on this Friday episode of PFN Daily. We've been going through mock drafts with you the last couple of weeks. We'll only have a few more days of this together, my friend, and we're going to take a look here at the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, an interesting mock draft for them considering all their needs. We know Tommy is a Pittsburgh Steelers fan.
I saw his expression. He's like, wait a second.
He's like, yeah, why? He's like, what are we going to be doing here? So first off, let's get to the round one, pick number 20. Desmond Ritter, quarterback out of Cincinnati. And look, I think that there's been a different consensus on this year's quarterback class. Some people think that, hey, Desmond Ritter's got the traits, the leadership, and also the ability to be able to operate an NFL style of offense. To me, I want your thoughts on this, especially for a team like Pittsburgh that just signed Mitch Trubisky on a 2-year deal.
Yeah, and I think the Mitch Trubisky signing kind of, impacts this in a way. If you're Pittsburgh, if you don't have that quarterback in place, maybe you feel like you're kind of worked into a corner and you have to trade up for a guy that you really like. Now that they have Trubisky, well, he's not the long-term answer. I'm not going to take that leap. He does give you some flexibility to kind of stand pat. He at least has that starting experience, and you can ride him out as a bridge quarterback in 2021 if you don't get your guy. That said, in this mock draft, Desmond Ritter was there at 20th overall. If a quarterback falls and you don't have to trade up for him, you don't have to give up assets, then that could be a good value deal, because often, we hear about teams having to trade up and give up assets for QBs. That's the big sticking point, is giving up all that value. But if you can get them just right where you are, just staying put, that can be a very good opportunity. And especially with Desmond Ritter, I think if he can sit behind Trubisky for a little bit, there are some things that I want to clean up on his tape, the mechanics being the big thing, the inaccuracy. Even after 4 years as a starter, it's still a pretty big problem. And that's a little concerning to me because it didn't improve over time. But the athleticism is there, the arm talent is there, and the leadership is there too. You hear about the intangibles, his character, no complaints on that front. But some quarterbacks, the mechanics, you can fix it. It's something you can fix. But at the same time, it's kind of habitual at the same time. So you wonder how much of it is ingrained and how tough is it going to be to kind of chisel away at that and kind of remake the player. So I'm a little skeptical there because the lower body mechanics, the upper body, it all needs a little bit of work with him. But he's got the intelligence, he's got the athleticism and the arm talent. So if you can get him without trading up, I say go for it. Tommy, I know you're a Steelers guy, so what do you think about this one?
I'm not entirely sold on Desmond Ritter. Like you talk about, he's a guy that had all these different years starting and never really kind of put it together. It's just the inconsistency. There's sometimes you're watching his film and it's like he just goes off and has like this fantastic throw, and all of a sudden he just widely underthrows a deep ball, which makes no sense because he arguably might have the best arm in this class. He's like a more athletic Kellen Mond. Like he has all that kind of upside, but still has some of those questions when it comes to consistency. But it's like you said, like you have Trubisky this year for the Steelers to where he can be that number one. You're not worried about him, and you let Desmond Ritter develop behind him. Like he's got a ton of upside. I know some people are putting like number 3 in this class behind like Malik Willis and then Kenny Pickett, and they're kind of putting him right there in that same range like your Sam Howell and Matt Corral. So like if you end up getting a quarterback falling this far in this class, which is not so much a referendum of the QB class this year, but more of just, hey, you get the opportunity to get one of these guys without trading up, like it makes a ton of sense for the Steelers because it is absolutely still going to be one of their needs until they find the next heir apparent to take over the throne from Ben Roethlisberger, which I don't know if that's actually on the roster right now. That's for sure.
Yeah. Moving into if you stick out with Mitch Trubisky, Mike Tomlin is not a coach that has losing seasons, right? So if you stick it out with him, you're probably not going to be in position to get CJ Stroud or Bryce Young next year. So it puts you in a tough quandary right now. Do you get that guy if he falls to you? It's going to be interesting to see what happens because it could ultimately happen.
Yeah. And that's a big thing too. Like, are you projected to be one of the worst teams? If not, you're going to struggle with one of these top quarterbacks unless you're expecting someone to take like that Zach Wilson or massive like a Joe Burrow, Kenny Pickett, will come out kind of out of nowhere and end up becoming a top 5 pick. But even then, like you're probably still not going to be in that range unless something massively goes wrong for the Steelers, which is always a possibility because this is going to be one of the tougher divisions in the AFC North. And also you got the Steelers here adding a little bit more depth this time, sitting here in round 2, pick 52 with Travis Jones, a defensive tackle out of UConn. To me, this feels like you're either going into your defense or you're going offensive line. So I think it's probably going to be based on what's available. Is that kind of the thought process here?
Yeah, anytime in round 2, we're looking at the trenches and what's there, especially this tackle class, I feel like, and the interior line class, there's kind of a drop off at that point, where maybe there won't be as many options. You look at a guy like Travis Jones, if he's there, I think you have Tyson Alualu, who, has had his flashes in Pittsburgh, but again, he's not under contract for too long. He's going to be out soon potentially, and you might need a younger guy to take that nose tackle role. I think Travis Jones is a very good candidate for that. We saw him at the Senior Bowl. He was dominant at the Senior Bowl. I mean, this is a guy from UConn, right? So not a big time school. he was coming, he was matching up with some really, really talented guards and pushing them back and getting that bull rush, getting that proper leverage, explosive off the line, very physical. I love what he had to offer at the Senior Bowl and kind of showing his stuff. And I think that especially for Pittsburgh, having that size and that athleticism to work from that alignment and even be a little bit alignment versatile if you're moving him around a little bit, if you want to do even fronts, he can stick out a little bit to 2Y. I really like the traits that are there. And I think especially for, Travis Jones, I know he's been comped favorably to Derek Brown, as a prospect, which, as a prospect, he was very strong. Obviously hasn't panned out quite as much as we'd hoped it would in Carolina. But if you're working with those tools, if you can get those tools, it's always a good thing. And especially with guys like Cameron Hayward and Stephon Tuitt, having Travis Jones there to kind of take the load off and take on those double teams. I look at him and Jordan Davis kind of as similar prospects. I think Travis Jones could be a better value deal at the end of the day, because do you want to take a guy like Jordan Davis in round 1? I saw there was a comment about him. I do think he's more of a zero tech right now. He has the athleticism to move around, but right now, the pass rushing arsenal isn't there. He's a little imbalanced sometimes. So right now, I like him as that 2-gapper and that zero tech right now. He can be more with the athleticism that he has. But if it's that much of a projection, I do like getting Travis Jones in round 2 over that in terms of the value equation. And that's what the Steelers get here.
Well, the offensive line has always been an area of discussion here for this Pittsburgh Steelers team the last couple of years. Obviously, with a talented tailback like Najee Harris, you need to find a way to not only just find a way to get him to be able to run. Like, for example, he's one of the best dynamic backs when we talk about athleticism. However, he was fighting for every inch, every yard he was getting last season. And not to mention, too, you need someone to protect your quarterback. So in round 3, with pick number 84 here in Pro Football Network's latest mock draft on the Pittsburgh Steelers, they have them taking Nicholas Petit-Frere, offensive tackle, out of Ohio State. Now, is this a guy that you believe could be plugged in and start right away here in 2022 for the Steelers team, regardless if it's Mitch Trubisky at quarterback or whether it's a rookie?
I think Petit-Frere is going to need a little bit of time. I think what you're going for with this pick is upside. I mean, looking at his tape at Ohio State, here's the thing I'll say about him. Very good run blocker. I mean, he's one of the better run blockers in this class. Very violent off the snap, surges his pads forward, and is really good at mauling guys and kind of driving them into the turf. So he's very good as a run blocker. As a pass blocker, still a lot to work on. I mean, the footwork can be really inconsistent sometimes, a little too frantic, imbalanced. The synergy between his lower and upper body isn't always where it needs to be. Mistimes punches, sometimes stops his feet from moving and can let guys get around him. So technically, there is a lot to work on for Nicholas Petit-Frere. That said, he's very athletic. He's very smooth laterally. He has that explosiveness off the line. He's got great length, great frame density. And at the same time, too, he's got that versatility, and this is key for the Steelers, I think, because you got Dan Moore on the left side, Chukwuma Okorafor on the right side. Maybe neither of those guys being long-term options. Dan Moore has the upside, but is he going to be that guy? We don't know yet. So I think getting Petit-Frere in there, he can play left and right tackle. That's big, having that versatility, having that ability to move around at will wherever you need him to go. I think that right there, he can be a swing tackle right away. And if he improves that technique, he can potentially be a starter, because as much as, Chukwuma provides them value as that stopgap, not sure if he's that long-term guy. So Petit-Frere, you get him in there, those high upside tools, let him develop behind those guys for a little bit. If it pans out, great. If not, you still have depth, and that's valuable as well.
Tommy, you got anything?
Yeah. No, I completely zoned out. I was sitting here thinking about the other addition that the Steelers make, because he would pair perfectly right here with James Daniels and Mason Cole. So I was just like, yeah, okay, never mind. Just looking at the rest of the Steelers mock draft, you guys pulled off here in round 4, pick 138, Josh Johnson, the wide receiver out of Tulsa. It's a good idea because the Steelers are going to need some additional wide receiver help, especially losing Juju Smith-Schuster and Deontay Johnson coming up on contract here pretty soon. Then in round 6, pick 208, Ali Fareed, the edge rusher out of Western Michigan. Then in round 7, pick 225, Josh Thompson, cornerback out of Texas. Can't have enough corners. And then in round 7, pick 241, Chasen Hines, the guard out of LSU, adding a little bit more depth to the trenches there for the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah, the pick that I really love in that batch is, sorry, Cody, real quick. The pick that I really love in that batch is Josh Johnson out of Tulsa. I think he's one of the sleepers at wide receiver. He's around 5'10", 180, but I think he has 32-inch arms, really good proportional length, so he's got that wide catch radius. And at the Shrine Bowl, I mean, some of those reps that he had, some of those routes, very good hip sync, very good stopping ability, and the acceleration out of those breaks too. I mean, he is very good at gearing up out of those and kind of getting that separation. So for the Steelers especially, they like that separation. We know that's why they got Deontay Johnson. I think Josh Johnson can be a very good rotational threat early on with those skills.
Well, if you're a Pittsburgh Steelers fan, what did you think of this mock draft? Make sure you comment, smash the like button, and let us know down below here, youtube.com/Pro Football Network.